Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the summer NSAA play production workshop. We appreciate you giving up a summer day to be here, and we hope that you find today to be worthwhile. My name is Jeffrey Horner. If you don't know who I am the speech and play coach at Minden and am the president right now of the Nebraska Speech Communication Theater Association. And so it's sort of my job to help head this up and make this happen here this summer. So we have a full day of hopefully some great presentations for you. This morning is going to be focused on coaching, and then we'll take a break for some lunch, and then this afternoon we'll be focused on judging. FYI, it's going to get cooler in here. Michelle said that they kicked the air on at 8, and as we move through the morning, you should feel some cool air coming. So hopefully that's the case. Happy vibes for Kearney High here. So I know that I'm a little warm too, so that's coming along. So anyway, so the morning, like I said, is going to be focused on coaching, and the afternoon on judging, but you're probably going to find out both sessions. You'll find a little bit of judging stuff in the morning and probably a little bit of coaching stuff in the afternoon, because it all kind of blends together anyway. So we're happy to have you here across the day. A reminder that in the fall, if what you see today you love and you want more of it, by all means, please plan to come out to the NSAA convention that will also happen right here in Kearney over at the Unison on September 19, 2021. We would love to have you at convention here this fall, where there will be more sessions and more education and camaraderie and building of relationships and connections. So we'd love to have you at convention. There will be information coming out to your emails. There's a NSAA Facebook page you can go to, places that you can get those links to get registered for that. So please consider coming out to that also. So anyway, I'm not going to take up much time today because we have great sessions planned. So I'm very excited that our first presenter this morning is Cheryl Kerman. And I'm not going to say much except that Cheryl is a veteran speech and play production coach, but also a costumer. She's my costumer. I love her. And she is going to give us some great wisdom about period costuming and hair. So I'm thrilled that she's here. So please welcome Cheryl.
Well, good morning, and don't change slides yet. I'm sure I'm supposed to be that quicker, but not yet. Officially this is called Authentic Costuming and Hair, and it was supposed to be in makeup, but I'm not a great makeup person, so I just said costuming and hair is where I'm going. So first thing to know is that authentic does not equal vintage. Don't go looking for vintage 1800s clothes, even 1930s clothes, because they aren't going to fit. The fabric is going to fall apart, but as a costumer, you can create that look on stage of being authentic. So, two things with two fingers. First, I'm going to have you do a little bit of picture in your head here. I would like for you to picture an Irish jumper. Just picture that in your head, give yourself a second. Okay, how many have some plaid things going on in your head? Maybe Catholic school, parochial school uniforms. Okay, you would be wrong. Because an Irish jumper is a cable knit sweater. It's a pullover cable knit sweater. And so one of the things I want to tell you about being authentic is don't take the words on the page and put 2024 knowledge into that. To be authentic, you might have to do a little bit of research. And you have to kind of know your script. And then you have to look down through the definitions and say, oh, that's what they're talking about. Okay, next picturing. This one shouldn't be as hard. I would like for you to picture either, or both, Cinderella's glass slippers or Dorothy's ruby slippers. You got those? Those are pretty easy, right? They have nothing to do with the boudoir. They don't go with nightgowns. They don't go with negligees. They go with slip-on shoes that are predominantly for dancing. And a slipper was a word for shoes, for women's feminine-looking shoes from many, 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 many years. Okay? So we need to stay away from our preconceived notion of what does a slipper look like. A slipper is a shoe. Not my pink fuzzy bunnies that I wear with my flannel jammies. Okay? So again, the two things you need to know. Resources are definitions, so get a dictionary. And then of course, use the internet. Believe it or not, that's what I do a lot. But I do have some books that I particularly like that look at all kinds of time periods as well as socioeconomic groups. Okay, so I have to check my notes. I did this last week. So the point is, first of all, to be educated yourself. And so that you can either educate your students or educate your costumer. All right. You can change slides for me because managing slides and a microphone. So if we are going to talk about authentic costuming and hair, we're going to have a little bit of flash. And yes, if you've been to any of my sessions, I really do like my acronyms. F is for fabric, L is for length, A is for accessories, style, and your head, hat versus hair, as to how you're going to costume an individual. Now, if you leave this, when you leave this place, and you go on to the NSAA and probably the NSCTA website, this slideshow will be there, and you can see that there's some spots to click on to get some more information. So by all means, take notes, but underneath that flash where it says Think Flash, you'll get pretty much what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's look first of all at fabric. What you want to look for are fabrics that are natural. Okay, you're looking at cottons, at cotton blends, at polycottons even, at wools and wool blends, at linens. Now some of those are pretty expensive, so you do want to pay attention to what you find in charity shops or whatever else. And I could say, to maintain authenticity, you want to stay away from jersey knits as much as possible. If you're not sure what a jersey knit is, someone near to you is probably wearing it because it's a nice, cool to a point, not just a cotton t-shirt, but one that has a whole lot of extra stretch to it, a whole lot of kind of shiny almost fabric to it. But they snag like crazy. They cling like there's nothing left to the imagination, especially up on stage. And you also want to stay away from that lovely 60s polyester. Oh, I'm doing a period piece, 1960s, 1970s. I have found these great bell-bottoms, mini skirts, mini dresses, and you're going to put those on your students, and they may or may not fit. And they are going to bake. And as polyester gets sweat, it's hard to wash out. They are going to continue to stink. And I mean, let's be honest, by about mid-November, a whole lot of our costumes can get up and walk out on stage all by themselves. They know what they're doing, and they smell like it. And so 60s polyester also is a very snaggy, anything you climb up against, hit up against on a stage, and zoop, you've got this little snag along your side that is impossible to get out unless you cut the thread, and if you cut the thread, you're going to make a hole. So fabrics to go for are those natural ones, cottons, woolens, wool blends, and to avoid the polyesters, the jersey knits. And I give special consideration, as in be careful, but they look really great on stage, are silks, satins, and sateens. I mean, if you're doing anything that is Asian, you probably want that silk look, and they are beautiful on stage. They have a shine and a shimmer that you want to use, if at all possible, but do know, satins, sateens, and silks show sweat stains. They get that funny little crinkle off color, particularly on the arms. So even though they may be authentic, you really want to pay attention to what your actor has on underneath, because they are beautiful on stage. They are natural fabrics, silk is a natural fabric, but they're also very, very difficult to clean, and they do show some sweat. So you want to be careful with that. Satins and sateens wrinkle to the point, you know, once a character is sat down, they're probably going to stand up with a wrinkle here. In that case, make darn sure they have decent slips, petticoats, underwear on underneath to help with that. Believe it or not, that's what a slip and a petticoat is supposed to do. It is supposed to help with those wrinkles. Okay, so that's our fabric. Length, well, it's kind of self-explanatory to a point. The length of a garment, whether it is slacks or, okay, I'm tearing this out with one hand, and there we go. There, now it works. Whether it's slacks or skirts, and I say skirts, which includes dresses because the bottom half of the dress is called the skirt, can show two things very, very quickly. Length is something that sticks out to the audience right now, right here, right now. It shows age of the character and socioeconomic status. In just that brief moment when an actor comes out, a young boy in short pants, you know he is a young boy. Okay, so whether you're looking at the length of slacks, I guess that's not up there, but it's on the other one. You can go to the other one, I don't care. Short pants, knickers, breeches, dungarees, stirrup pants for guys, yes, or trousers. The length will show the socioeconomics of that individual. The poorer, the shorter. Think about that. The poorer, the shorter. Now that's not true for all time periods. Some time periods are, of course, think American Revolutionary, where we have breeches on that go below our knees. But what then comes below the shorter slacks, pants, will also show both age and socioeconomics. Bare ankles show poor. Bare ankles show poor. Socks are a luxury. So if you are costuming American Revolution, or if you've seen Hamilton, you know they all wear tights. They wear long socks. They wear long stockings. And cover it up. Did you know, a little sidebar, because I had a really great history teacher across the hall from me for a lot of years, that this move, putting your best foot forward, was to show that my calves are bigger than yours, therefore I'm better than you. Yeah, that's actually what that was. And you can also, they would wear possibly more than one layer just to make them look bigger, because you're putting your best foot forward. This is who I am. I'm better, I'm richer, I'm more status, whatever, than you. Pants, of course, got longer and longer and longer, and for the most part, in the 20th century, we have trousers, but even those are different in terms of width. The 1920s, they got really wide, so we could put our Tommy guns in them, and they've gotten slender, and they've eased out, just kind of depending on where they are. Some are higher waisted, some are slightly lower waisted, some are right at the waist. But you really want to pay attention to the length, even of slacks. It's also true in length of skirts. A young girl in, think period dramas here, is going to wear, and I mean a young girl, might wear something right at or right above her knee. Okay? But they will have tights on underneath. Something to completely cover the leg. Think of the pictures of like Little Boy Blue. Okay, both children of that era have long tights on, legs are covered, and shorter skirts. You move up into, say you're doing Music Man and you have a whole bunch of children, your skirts can be just below the knee, mid-shin, long shin, or all the way to the floor. And as you get closer to the floor, you get older characters. And you can see that in general of a time period. Now remember, we are talking what is going to be an authentic looking period costume. So, women we know, we have a variety of lengths of skirts, dresses in our closets, depending on what we're doing. We just do. Maybe we're golfing and they're a little bit shorter because that's what makes sense. Maybe we have a nice full skirt that looks almost 50s, right below the knee. Mid-shin would be the mothers of the mid-50s. And in the 1930s, 20s and 30s, the skirts came up, or the dresses came up, partly because we wanted to show more ankle. I saw some little bit back there. She's showing me as she's walking in. And for socioeconomics, can't afford a long all the way to the floor dress that's just going to get dirty. Okay? So you really, really, really want to pay attention to something as crazy as the length of a skirt. All right. I guess I should ask if there's any questions so far, but I'm not going to, just in case you have specific, I will leave time for questions. So if you have questions, write them down. Okay, the A is for accessories. And I've actually talked several times at convention and whatnot about accessories. And so the link on the accessories handout deals with head, shoulders, knees, and toes. Actually, it's head, shoulders, fingers, and toes. How we add to the basics of a costume really brings out the authenticity of our characters. There is a difference between a chain necklace and a ribbon necklace. There's a difference between a woolen shawl and a silk shawl. There's a difference between fingerless gloves for both male and female, and right away, I'm betting you're thinking that's a poorer person. Someone who has to use their hands will want their hands to be warm. Long gloves, that's different. That shows a different socioeconomics. Okay? So, head, we're going to talk about it on the H anyway. So, shoulders, fingertips, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. What's going around? Also, what else are we carrying? Are we carrying a cane, a walking stick, an umbrella, a parasol? All of those things are listed on that handout. So if you haven't seen one of those before, it has some really good ideas for both males and females to help your character be authentic. Okay? S is for style. And actually, if I didn't love my acronyms so much, I would start with style. Because you have to start with what time period you are in. So I've already mentioned you got to have the internet, or the internet is a great source and a great tool. But so are a few other things. Look at, and I'm a lover of PBS Masterpiece Theater, look at period dramas. Whether you are looking at Bridgerton, which I like, Poldark, which is a little bit earlier in history, or moving up into the teens and the 20s, like All Things Great and Small, or Call the Midwife in the 50s and 60s. Those are great sources of what does a costume for a variety of socioeconomics and ages look like? What I do quite often is if I'm watching one of those shows, I will pause the show, I will take a screenshot of it, I'll take a photo of that, or I'll try to sketch it, which I'm a lousy drawer, but I try to sketch it anyway for myself, as to what I might use for an individual in that particular position. Those are a great resource. And because of the source, because we always have to consider our source, go back to speech, consider your source, PBS Masterpiece really does do its homework. So there's no reason for you to have to do your homework on top of them, unless you really want to, which you can do, and I certainly do, but they've certainly given all of us a really good place to start. Okay, so head, shoulders, knees, and toes. As a costumer, I will give directions, suggestions on what to put on feet, but I don't myself carry any shoes because the sizes, the styles, the colors would be impossibly limitless. But we have seen, and we have judged, we have costumed our students. A black flat is a perfectly acceptable slipper for a whole lot of actors, characters, for a whole lot of time periods, for a whole lot of authenticity, just to keep it simple, and the sheer fact that we do have people on stage, okay? But pay attention to what those shoes look like. Does anybody in here know what a Mary Jane shoe looks like? Okay, those are the shoes with the cute little buckle across the instep. That can be faked real easily. Put on a pair of black flats, and before you put on a pair of black flats, put a ribbon around the instep, tie a little bow on it, or put a buckle, and put your foot then into a pair of black flats, and you have a pair of Mary Janes walking across the stage. It's not that hard to do. You're going, yeah. That's what resources like me are here for. I can give you tons of ideas and how to do this working within the budgets that you have. Okay? All right, so accessories. And if you want to know what that looks like in terms of authenticity, do you know the sculptor Herb Minery? Have you ever been to the Herb Minery garden at Bartlett? It is a beautiful, beautiful space. And his statues, his sculptures are life-size and 360 degrees. You can walk all the way around those. And if you're walking all the way around the cowboy who from the front has his hat, has his neckerchief, has maybe a rope wound up in his hand, but then you walk around the back of that cowboy and you see his gloves hanging out of the back of his pocket. That's authenticity. That is how you really get an actor to sell a character. You do a 360, because a 360 and accessories are what come together to show that this actor understands this character, and this is what you want to show. And those details, as a judge, as an audience member, you go, whoa, wow, I wouldn't have thought of that. Okay? And so if you're ever not sure, do a 360 on a beautiful piece of statuary, because it will have fronts as well as backs, and the backs are just as important. All right, so we are at FLA, S for style and time period. And I would say that style, like I said, I would start there. In fact, the first two notes that I wrote were style and length. So style and length definitely go hand in hand. Where you are in history dictates the length of what you are wearing. Where you are in the socioeconomic picture of your period shows where you are on the ladder. So you have to start with where you are in history, and then you look at where you are on the ladder in terms of socioeconomic status. I'm just going to put a quick plug in for undergarments under style. Undergarments will include maybe a t-shirt that shows, a petticoat, a slip, an underskirt. I get this question all the time in the shop. What's the difference between a slip and an underskirt? A slip is not meant to be seen. It is a proven fact that the eye is drawn to the lightest thing on the stage. And if it's a little rim of white slip hanging out, you got a problem, because hopefully you want more to be seen and shown. So hike the white up, but an underskirt is something that is meant to, think of a dust ruffle on a bed, okay? It collects all the extra. It is floor length where the skirt itself might be ankle or low shin, okay? But it's easier to wash that cheap piece of fabric, thinking the ability to not just change clothes every hour of the day. So that's an underskirt. It should complement what else is on. Bloomers are important. If your individual, particularly female, is going to be showing her knickers, it better be knickers from the right time period. Okay? So just a thought. Bright red cheerleading pants underneath my skirt may not be what you want to have everybody see. But I have them! I already own these! You know, let's do a little other looking. The other thing on style is closures. Buttons, ties, hooks, belts. So all of those things can make a difference. And don't be afraid of zippers. No, zippers didn't come around until the 19-teens in World War I, and didn't really get into garments until mid-1920s or later. And then, but we need zippers. We have high school students who need to get in and out of clothes. And it's easier, okay? But now those great big metal zippers that come up the front in the Revolutionary period didn't happen, okay? So just think about that. But the closures make a difference. We're also looking at whether something is fitted as opposed to it being voluminous. Sleeves, for example, when you talk length, sleeves make a difference. Style of sleeves shows a time period. A voluminous sleeve shows wealth. A short rolled up sleeve or a sleeve that's rolled up definitely shows what this individual's status is, what its job is. Okay? I think that's enough for S on style. So now let's look at the head, the hair, whatever you want to put on it. Oh, I just love the fact that all of your characters have something on their head. I put a lot of head pieces on characters. You read that on your ballads, you see it, you need to have those things. Yes, but there is a time when a hairdo is the head piece. Okay? There is a time when a barrette or a set of braids is the hairpiece. So, my go-to is this. Are we looking at utility or fashion? Utility means this individual is a worker. So maybe a kerchief, maybe braids that are wound up. Okay? If it's a young child, maybe a barrette to hold something back. But again, the barrette is going to show where you are in the social, economic status. Okay? A mod cap, also called a duster cap, the little white caps with the fringe and the ruffle around. I use a lot of those because those have been around for women for a long time. You can stick your hair back in them and do all kinds of work around your house. As a costumer, I tell directors, try to make sure that mod cap goes behind the ear. And this is simply practical. Your actor needs to hear what's going on stage. And if it's right here, they may miss something. So that might mean a bobby pin or two. Nothing wrong with bobby pins. So when you're looking at utility versus fashion, fashion might be, Kentucky Derby, fascinators. Boom, those hats they're fascinating, okay? Their purpose is to be showy. If you don't watch Bridgerton, some of those are definitely fascinators, and that's all right. But I have a daughter that lives in Baltimore, and I love going to op shops, charity shops in Baltimore, because the fashions are so different, and a religion that is very common is the Baptist. And I am telling you, there are some beautiful hats that make it into the charity shops that are fascinators, that are big and not necessarily feathery, but full of flowers and netting, and they're just gorgeous. They pretty much don't have any utilitarian use. But dang, they're nice looking. Okay? So, utility versus fashion. And the same is true for men. Okay? What kind of a hat? A top hat that blows down the street off of a snowman. Might be silk. It might be wool. It might be felt. And just listening to those words, you can right away say silk. It's up here. Woolens, felt is cheap, okay? And different styles. The newsboy cap has been around for a very, very, very long time, and it is very effective, okay? But make sure it matches your actor and everything else that he is doing, or actress if she's putting her hair up in it. There's a difference between a top hat, a bowler hat. A bowler hat is very round. Think Laurel and Hardy. Those are bowler hats. They try to be really upstanding, rich people, but a bowler hat says that they're not. Okay? They're not bad. They're not as, I'm going to say low, as maybe a newsboy. And there's a hat called a pork pie that was really popular in the 1920s. Short brim, sawed off on top, very collegiate looking. And there's also a difference between, so we've gotten down to felt, a straw hat. Straw hats are inexpensive, easy to make, easier, okay? All right, those are the hat part of the head thing. When it comes to hair, first of all, your resources for hair are exactly the same as your resources for the clothing. Period dramas, the internet, and then I add your local stylist. Your local stylist probably has some books on period hair, because at school, they will have been told, the local theater company is going to come to you, and they're going to want to know how to do. And they got all that information. And they are a grand resource. They're a grand resource beyond the picture, because they can even show you how to do it. And if you're not a hair person, and I myself am not a hair person, you can ask my daughter who had beautiful long hair, and I'm like, I know. Here's a clip. I know how to braid. And now my 4-year-old granddaughter can self-braid French braiding, and I'm like, okay, you're miles ahead of me. But someone taught her that. Her mom taught her that, because her mom didn't teach her that. So your local stylist. And they can even do wigs for you if you bring, they'll tell you what kind of wig to bring or to buy. They'll preset it. So all you have to do is put it on your individual. Wigs take a whole lot of special care. Okay? Ask your stylist, what do I do with this at the end of the show? How do I travel with a wig? you get a wig box. There's all kinds of options, but hair comes down to this, and I had to write it out so I wouldn't forget it. What can be reasonably accomplished on the bus, at home, in prep time. And if you cannot reasonably accomplish the look you are going for while riding on the bus, at home before they even leave and get on the bus, or during your prep time at the tournament, find another option, ask the stylist. Okay? All right. So, I have no idea where I am on time. Huh? I'm 5 over. Okay, so it comes down to this. Authentic, have a little bit of flash first. And please understand that authentic costumes cannot make authentic characters. Actors and directors make authentic characters. The costume enhances the believability of that character. Thanks.